Welcome to From Pumps to Power Moves. I'm your host, Claudia Williams. This is where we stop waiting for someday and start making intentional moves today. We're diving into the strategies that turn ambition into action and influence into impact. Whether you're climbing the ladder or building your own path, this is your space to step into what's next and own it. Hi, and welcome today. I'm especially privileged to be joined by perhaps the most popular face on campus at James Madison University. His journey to James Madison began as a student. He met his wife at JMU. He left briefly, came back, left again, and came back at 2018, where he now serves as the Vice President of Student Affairs. And when his picture and name comes up on that big Jumbotron in the stadium, the roar is extreme. It's the loudest possible in the stadium, perhaps even more loud than a touchdown. And if you know, you know. Please welcome Dr. Tim Miller to today's episode. Tim, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thanks, Claudia. That's probably the nicest introduction I think I've ever had for anything. So I appreciate it very much. I'm excited to be here with you.
Well, I'm so excited. And this might be the most nervous I've ever been for one of my podcast guests, because you are like truly the man, the myth, the legend at JMU. And when I told my daughter is a senior at JMU, and when I told her and her roommates, hey, Tim Miller's going to be on my podcast, they were like, "What? Oh my gosh, how did you make that happen?" I'm like, "Well, I sent a note. I just sent a note. I asked, and he said yes. So thank you very much."
Sure. No, I'm excited.
So let's start. Tell us a little bit about your journey to JMU. You were a student, which I think helps give tons of credibility to your space now as the Vice President of Student Affairs, but you were a student, you left. Your journey back to JMU had its ups and downs. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. When I came here, I'll go all the way back to how I got here the first time. I was trying to figure out where to go to college. I was a tuba player. Tuba was sort of my thing. So I actually came to JMU originally as a tuba major. That's actually a thing.
Yeah.
And one of the many things I found out right away is that just because I love playing tuba and I was good at it doesn't mean I want to do that the rest of my life. And after about a semester, I was like, I don't know if I want this to be my major. So then I was a guitar major after that. Then I realized I didn't want to play classical guitar the rest of my life, and bounced around a lot of majors. So I also experienced lots of JMU resources as a student as I was figuring my life out. And towards the end, wasn't sure what I was going to do with my life. I had done lots of things here on campus, and then was done graduating, trying to figure out what to do, and left and worked here for the summer and summer conference services. And someone left the university and in the union, and I thought, well, I liked it here. Let me apply to that job, and I got it. So I sort of left and came back the first time and got that job, and then realized, oh, people get a degree in this. We'll do this for a living. I don't know what I thought all these people did that helped me the whole time I was here, but it didn't occur to me these were jobs. And then I was like, yeah, I guess this is interesting. And then I started the master's program. I did an alternative break trip, and I came back from that and said, oh yeah, this is really this is transformational work. This is helping students figure themselves out. And so I then went back and finished my master's full time and left here in 2000. So I was here 8 years the first time. And from here, I went to the University of South Carolina to run their community service office. And amazing work experience. Loved the state of South Carolina, everything about it. My boss and I weren't a good match. My boss's boss and I weren't a good match. And so at the end of the year, I was like, I think I should probably find something else. And Jamie and I had gotten married that year. We met at the end of our time here at JMU and got married in 2000. And I was sort of trying to figure out what to do next. And after I told them I was going to leave, they honestly fired me. And so my first full-time job after JMU, I was like, oh my gosh, I lost this job. So I think failure is a big part of life and a big part of learning. And so from there, I did every job you could imagine. I was a construction worker, worked in a movie theater, you name it. I was a substitute teacher. I almost went back to become a teacher, family business of teaching. And Jamie got a job in Northern Virginia and moved back up to Vienna. And then I was sort of still doing every job you could imagine, trying to just pay the bills. Her parents were amazing. They let us live in her basement. But eventually, I got a job at George Washington University, and I was there 16 and a half years. There's a lot of stories there that we can get into if we want, but I worked there 16 and a half years, got my doctorate. And then in 2017, actually, I applied to come back to JMU. My predecessor, Mark Warner, announced his retirement. And I thought, I don't know that it was always the life goal, but it was always in the back of my head. Do I want to go back? And I had the opportunity, and I have my dream job at my favorite place. And I think that has played a lot into why I've been able to be successful here, is that when you love what you do and you love where you do it, all those things really come together. And for me, I really feel like I've been the right person at the right time at the right place here at JMU. And it's been an amazing thing to come back here.
There's so much that I love about your story too, because it isn't like this unicorn and rainbow journey that got you to doing what you love exactly where you love to be, and you had to grind to make it
Right.
happen for a period of time, right? You're doing jobs you didn't necessarily love, and it wasn't easy. And sometimes I think young adults feel like it's, well, sometimes they feel like they're supposed to know exactly what they're supposed to do the second they enter school, and it's supposed to magically happen for them as soon as they're done with school. That's
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Well, and it's just not real. One of the things I love to tell students is there's a book called Ikigai that's out there in the world, and it talks about, and I add my own piece to it, but it talks about what do you love to do? So it's a Venn diagram. They talk about a Venn diagram. What do I love to do? What am I good at? What serves the world? What pays you? Because you have to pay
Mm.
bills. And the circle I add is what serves yourself. Because I think what we do in the world should also serve ourselves. And the first time all five of those came together for me was in this job.
Wow.
That doesn't mean the previous 40 plus years were failures. That means they were all working towards that place. But when you find where the five of those come together, that little spot in the middle is life purpose. And I know I'm living my life purpose in this job. I think that comes through in how I do it. But when I look at all the other jobs I had, some I was really good at, some I liked but I didn't love, some served humanity but maybe not myself, some served myself, not humanity. They all paid me. First job was $26,000, so that wasn't a
Mm.
lot of paying, but it's fine. My dad always told me that if you're only doing it for the money, you're only happy every other Friday. Great
True.
dad there. But I think our job in life is to find where those five circles start getting filled and then come together at something in the end. And for some people, all five of those are in the job. Some are personal and the job. For me, I really do live the work. And so that those five really are about the work for me and what I get to do in that. And there are so many bumps in the road. We could do a whole day just on bumps in the road. I mean, losing that first job that made me question if I should do higher ed or not. Then not getting a job later at GW. I didn't get hired for a job. Thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'm gone as far as I can go in this field. I have to change. If I had changed 3 months later when that job came vacant again and I got it, I wouldn't have been there to get that job. And I don't love the concept of luck, but I do think that we put ourselves in positions so that when the opportunity is there, you're the right person for it. And that has really worked out for me in life. And I think about, I joke with my team, no one will call me patient. I'm not known for patience. I am about perseverance. I think that you don't wait for things to happen. You keep working towards them, and eventually they do happen as long as you're working towards it. But that involves lots of struggle, lots of success, all those things coming together, and sometimes a little. I think of it as magic, not luck. Sometimes a little bit of magic. I mean, I was interested in leaving GW at the same time Mark Warner announced he was retiring.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you a funny story that actually I don't think I've ever told anybody.
Mm.
I had actually reached out to Mark, my predecessor, to set up a meeting with him to talk to him about his job and showing interest that I wanted to follow him in his job, thinking I had 2 or 3 years. Well, between when I set the meeting and it happened, he announced his retirement.
Wow.
So I had 6 months, not 2 or 3 years, because I thought I'm not quite ready yet. I just finished my doctorate. I need some more time to fill some gaps in my resume and my experience. Next thing I knew, I'm applying to his job and I wasn't ready, but I had to get ready. And,
How did you get ready?
so when I don't know how to do something, I read about it. So I read every book about vice presidents I could find. I read every book about transitions I could find. William Bridges is a great author around the concept of transition, so I read a lot of his books, and I just read about vice presidencies and vice presidents, and I read more than I was normally reading around the Chronicle of Higher Education and Inside Higher Ed. I was keeping up.
Hmm.
I wasn't investing. If that makes sense. I wasn't investing the time and the knowledge that I needed. So instead of just keeping up with the news, I was out there finding the news. I was out there finding research. And then honestly, I just brought my best to the job, knowing that I didn't know how to do it, but I was going to do it my way and hopefully that would work out. And in the end, when I got it, thinking, oh man, I don't know that I would have been more ready in 2 years anyway. And in the end, they decided I was the right person. So I decided to prove them right. And, it was interesting. We'll probably go here, but one of the things that was interesting is I knew before my day of my interview what their concerns were about me as a candidate because Jamie, my wife, and I had stayed really involved at JMU. So people told me, one, they were worried that because I was from JMU, I wasn't going to make any change. I was going to just keep everything the same. Two, they were worried that they thought I'd be a part-time vice president because people knew Jamie well enough and knew how successful her career was. They're like, oh, he's never going to be here. He's going to go back and forth to DC.
Wow.
And so people knew that about us differently than they would another candidate. And then they were just kind of worried about I'd never worked at a public at that size, at least recently. I'd been at a private at GW. And I have to tell you, I took all three of those as sort of chips on my shoulder of proving them wrong. So, and we might talk about this, but I've been not been a part-time vice president.
Uh, Not at all. There's so much to unpack there. Uh, starting with starting with overcoming doubt, and the idea at first you reached out to someone, you were curious, you reached out because you had a relationship, and he could have been a stranger, and you could have reached out from a curious standpoint to say, I'm really curious about your job. I'd like to learn more about your job because it is a career goal I have for myself. So I love that.
Right,
And look, the timing, like you said, that little bit of magic, poof
right,
with the timing.
right.
And then you took steps to make yourself ready for something you didn't think you were ready for, and maybe you were more ready than
Sure,
maybe you were more ready than you felt you were ready for it.
sure.
And the anticipating what their potential objections would be to you as a candidate and
Right.
being prepared to address them. I mean, it's kind of like the perfect preparedness for a candidate interview for
Yeah.
something.
I hope so. And the other thing that was funny is I hadn't interviewed for a while. So
Uh,
I actually went to a colleague, a really trusted colleague, because the other thing I knew at my old job was if people found out you were looking,
mhm.
you were sort of on the outs.
Yes.
So I went to a colleague in the Career Center and I said, I don't know if I can interview for this job well. Can you do some practice interviews with me? So at, whatever I was, 44, I guess, years old, I'm
Excellent.
still practicing my interview processes. And it's so funny, I'll tell you, Ann Scammon, one of my favorite people on earth, we got together and did a practice interview, and she's so great and so honest. And I got maybe 5 minutes in, and she's like, "All right, we need to stop. You are so like jazzed, energized up. You're gonna scare them out of the room." She's like, "You've got to find a way to bring it down." And she's like, "Do you meditate? Do you, I'm like, "No, I don't do any of that." And she said, don't give me that face." She goes, "You need to center yourself before these interviews, and you need to like bring into what you want to get across, but be more calm in yourself." And so we did two more practice interviews before my actual first round. We did another one before my second round interview. And I actually downloaded an app and I started before the interviews. It was just like a 1 or 2 minute thing. And I'll never forget, Claudia, I'm at the airport interview for the JMU job at actually at a hotel in Charlottesville. And I got there early. I always get to interview stuff early. I like to sort of get the vibe and all that. So I
Hmm.
get there and I hide in a corner, and I'm just sitting there in this chair, and I turn on the app, and I'm just sort of doing my breathing exercises. And I'm like, please don't come out and get me. Please don't come out and get me, because I was so afraid they're going to come out and I'm going to be like sitting there like, oh,
Doing your box breathing. Yeah.
right, exactly. And it worked, and it was such great advice. And I needed someone who could say, this is not going well. We're good enough friends that I can tell you that, who brought me back down, because I was pretty, I mean, I don't lack in confidence. I think we can probably assume that about me. I don't think many people at my level are, lack confidence.
Hmm.
Like, but you got to have some centering and some humility in this process, and know that, just center into yourself. So it was such a great set of advice that I got, and it honestly led to getting the job. I mean, I really do believe that those practices helped me get this job and be prepared, and to be here today. And I'm so thankful to her, and so thankful for that process and her willingness to be honest with me.
And kudos to you for having the wherewithal to seek out help and feedback for something that was new, different, really important to you. And to know no matter how old we are, whether we're at the very beginning of our careers or midway, late in our careers, that every interview is a new interview, every stage is a new stage. And there are things we need to continue to practice.
Right. Well, and I knew people in the room too, and she helped me think through, how are you going to handle the fact that you have friends in that room interviewing you? And so all those things, having that outside expert in the world of career and interviews was so valuable. It's why I always think people need coaches. I have an executive coach now who's amazing.
Awesome.
And you need that outside voice to help you. The best thing about my coach is he doesn't care who I am. He does, right? But he doesn't care my title. He's not hung up on that stuff. He's not stuck in the JMU stuff. So it's not like he's going to tell anybody. He's such a private support system for me,
Yes.
and if I'm full of it, he'll tell me I'm full of it, and he'll call me on it. And he can just reflect back in such a different way than Jamie's great, right? No one's more supportive than my wife, but she's also
Mhm.
my wife. She's going to always have that, like, we're married side of this.
Yeah.
Keith is just a great resource for me. So having that coach that, early on we met every week. Now we meet every month.
Hmm.
I stock up stuff in my little notebook, and I can bring it up. And the other thing I'll tell you that he does that's so great, that's helped me, that's really brought me down to earth in a really good way, is we start every meeting with celebrations. So every time we share each back and forth 5 celebrations, and it centers me in the room, it centers me in the space with him. And also, as someone who often only gets problems, I have to remember before the meeting, oh my gosh, what am I going to celebrate today? Now I don't have to prep. The first 10, I had to prep and like write things down and remember. Now I'm celebrating, and gratitude is more front of mind to me than it used to be. And it's not something I'm naturally good at. And that has been such a good change that he's brought for me, is that celebrating and gratitude is so central in my work now that it never used to be.
Thanks for sharing that. And it is really important because you are someone who, on any given day, there are any number of really important, kind of life-changing student issues
Right.
that you're helping students solve, overcome. It is that kind of self-care, having a confidential safe space for you to go to and be reminded of the wins, the great things. It's important for you and for your continued success and thriving and enjoyment in your role, because it's
Yeah.
hard. It's hard to do your job.
Right. Because you can't talk to anybody else about it. Right. I mean,
Yep.
anyone else here is still part of here. I've got a couple really good vice presidents at other schools that I can
Mhm.
talk to and all that, but they're
Mhm.
still somewhat competitors. They're still somewhat, it's, yeah. So the value of executive coaching is just, for me, I found really valuable. And I've now, almost all my staff, my direct reports, all have executive coaches now.
Fantastic.
And they're like, we don't know if we can afford this. I'm like, we can't afford not to do this. This is such a valuable part.
Fantastic. And it makes people sticky, right? Like it's part of that engagement investment for folks too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, you mentioned that 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 fear of is Tim going to be a part-time VP because your wife Jamie works in DC. She has a critically important job as well, and this notion of part-time. I mean, anybody who knows you are anything but
Right.
this notion of part-time. Talk about how many hundreds of events just, and this isn't, you have your day job. Let's talk about how many hundreds of JMU events and the time you spend with students. Let's talk about that a little.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I wasn't really paying attention. I was just doing. And I'll give you a quick story and then I'll come back to the number. But
Yeah.
one of our really good friends who used to be on the alumni board with Jamie back in the day here at JMU, Larry, about 6 months in, they were talking. He's like, Jamie, you got to talk to Tim. Like, this is not sustainable. So what are you talking about? He goes, do you know what he's doing? Like, there's no way he can keep up this pace. And Jamie said, you have no idea, Larry. This is normal. Like, this is how he does stuff. And I say that because that's someone else bringing it up. I don't want to say that like, oh look how good I am. Like Larry was worried about me being able to like maintain the pace.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until the end of the year because my staff was like, hey, we went back through and we compiled through your calendar and all the invites that you did 364 events this past year in the first year that I was there. So June to July. So I guess I started June 4th. So until June, whatever. So yeah, 12 months. There's 364 meetings or events with students, all mostly like after 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh yeah, that's basically one a day. Yeah, that makes sense. Now that's not how it works out, right? Because that's even including a December break and a Thanksgiving break and all those other things that are happening. So it was really just the school year when you think about it. And Jamie and I that summer we were talking to some friends and someone was like, how's this working? How are you all doing this? And she's like, Tim could not have been the vice president he wanted to be and is if I lived there. And the context I know you have that I don't know that I've shared is so Jamie still lives in DC full time. She actually now works for Northeastern University and they run an Arlington campus. And I live here full time and we do weekends and we see each other. We just came back from vacation together. Mm. And we wouldn't do that if it wasn't our shared alma mater. I'm not going to work at some random school and live 2 hours away from my wife. I mean, I actually love my wife and love living with my wife. There's a sacrifice in this that's important, but it's a sacrifice to invest in this place that we both love. And when I think about, I said this to someone a while back, that if I spend the rest of my life giving back to this place, that's a life well lived for me. I mean, this place helped me build this foundation to build this life that I love now. And this doesn't happen without my JMU time and without Jamie's JMU time. And giving back to that is a gift for me in ways that I'm not sure I can ever pay back. So when people are like, gosh, why do you work so hard? Or why do you this? Once they actually know me, they don't really ask that question anymore because they realize that this is me. I am it. We are one. And again, when you think about what I said before, to have life purpose at your dream place, all those things, there's just, I think because of all those things have come together in that way. And I think the reason why my students have responded so well and why I think parents have responded so well is because this is authentically me. There's not an Instagram Tim and then if you see me and talk to me, I'm one way. And then when, you get an email from me, I'm a different way. Like it's all me just being me. And I just feel really lucky and blessed that has worked as well. Cause I could have come here and done this and it had not worked out. But and again, it's not luck. It's me being me. But I do think that I do feel, I'm going to call it being blessed that this has really lined up. And I think that the other is that for me, this is not a job. This is a calling. This work to be in the most transformational time in people's lives in college is a calling. I'm called to be in education by my family. And I'm called to do this specific part of it by just how I found myself on this path I've been on. Like one of my favorite images out in the world is there's a straight line that says what people think success looks like.
Yes.
And then the jumble line of all that stuff. And it's like what success really looks like.
Yes.
Getting fired from my first job was huge. I learned so much from that. In the moment, I didn't know I was learning anything from that. I just thought I was really sad. Not getting another job, successes, problems. Honestly, I've had a lot of student losses in my life, students who've passed away,
Hmm.
lots of students with struggle. I've had parents, both my parents have passed away at this point. All those are moments on this journey that have put me here and prepared me in ways that were both purposeful and accidental, yet all worthwhile.
You're describing an exercise that I often have the folks I work with do, and talk about with their teams, that graphing of their journeys so that they can understand it wasn't this perfect line
Yeah.
of straight upwards success over time. And if they can come to understand that in themselves and have these conversations and share it with their children, share it with their teams, so that this idea of it's supposed to be some perfect path.
Right.
No, it's a lot of bouncing up and down, and then we get to see every time we hit down, we did bounce back up. So okay, we'll bounce. We'll keep bouncing.
Right.
You talked about your family and a family of education. So your mom was a teacher, your brother's a teacher, and your dad was a teacher to you. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I was just always in schools. I remember as a kid, like I would go into my mom's sixth grade classroom and help her set up the classroom. So I got to see that. I understood teachers as people in a way that I think that others don't. My brother's a seventh grade teacher now in Fairfax County. My father, while an accountant, was a teacher to me, but also teacher to others. Like the church was really important to him, so he often was at church, and he was always teaching and mentoring as an accountant. So all those things really just education was always important. I don't know that being an educator was something that I always thought was what I was going to do.
Mhm.
I remember senior year of high school, I sort of had extra room in my schedule, and it was really random. But my band teacher said, "Hey, we have these two students that are going to change instrument. They were both flute players that were going to become tuba players." He's like, "Could you use your extra block to teach them?"
Mm.
So my whole second semester, second half of the year, senior year, I was teaching other people how to play an instrument that I knew how to play really well. And I was like, gosh, I kind of like this teaching thing. And, moments like that have just happened my whole life. At the end of my undergrad career at JMU, the women's club soccer team came to my best friend and said, "Hey, we want a coach." He used to play soccer for the JMU team, and said, "Hey, would you come and run a class or run a session for us?" And he said, "Sure, can I bring my friend?" And brought me because I was a goalkeeper. And then suddenly I'm the assistant coach for the women's club soccer team. Do that for a year and a half. Then he graduates. And then I stayed there because I got a job. So then I stayed coaching. Suddenly I'm like, oh, coaching, teaching. I didn't know that wasn't a plan. But then for 4 years, I was coaching women's club soccer here, which
Mm.
defined the second half of my career here. And so those moments just sort of come along. And I think the importance is to keep your eyes open for those moments. The Year of Yes is one of my favorite books and talks
Yes.
about being open to things. And I mean, obviously, Shonda Rhimes is amazing anyway, but her book about her Year of Yes,
Hmm.
I think about the year after I finished my doctorate, after all these years, 7 years it took me of saying no to everything, of didn't go to weddings. I couldn't go to vacations because I was working my doctorate. That year, I hadn't read the book yet, but I called that my Year of Yes before I read her book. And I was saying yes to everything, which also led to the vice presidency here because I had said yes to this presentation and I had said yes to this. And like I'd done all these things that I had said no to for 7 years because I was in my doctoral work. And that saying yes led to lots of things that people started noticing me. So when I was looking at this job, people were like, "Oh, Tim presented at a conference I was at. He was really good." And, so all those things, because my eyes were open and I was willing to say yes to things, was such a powerful thing. And I think just a quick side story. My mom was sick forever.
Uh,
Uh, just was always lupus and lots of things. And I
uh,
remember she always talked about the regret of not being able to be well enough to do some things that she would have liked.
uh,
That was transformative for me. I mean, that was an
yeah.
important thing in my life. Of my mom was never physically as well to do the things that she wished she could have done, and I lived with that. And I also saw my dad let go of all the typical sort of male roles in a house because mom
Mhm.
couldn't physically do those. So and this sounds like such 70s thing, but like, early on in my life, mom cooked and mom cleaned and mom did laundry and worked and all that. And dad worked and came home and ate the meal and all
Yeah.
that. And, by end of elementary, middle school, mom was on FMLA and couldn't teach anymore. And dad was cooking and dad was cleaning and dad was doing laundry. Then I was doing my laundry. And, I think you do the things for family and you take on the roles that you take on because the family needs you to do them became important because those things needed to happen. And there stopped being some of those traditional sort of roles in the house. And, I've always been, impressed by my dad's changing of very traditional way he was brought up as an only child in a very male female gendered house, and the fact that lots of people give up on relationships when they get hard and when health fails and all that kind of. And my dad stuck through it to the end. My mom passed away first.
Mm.
She was like 63, um,
Gosh,
so
so
pretty
young.
young, right? And like she had been sick since 77, like 1977, so since I was 4. And so like just
Mm.
seeing that stuff I think was just really, really foundational for me, that we do the work that needs to be done and you do it to the best of your ability, and that's it, that's what you do. And that was probably one of the. And I remember at my mom's funeral, I honored my dad at my mom's funeral because
Mm.
of the man he is and what he gave to all of us and how he served her in a way that I don't know that I'd ever seen a male serve a spouse in pop culture and real life or anything, in ways that I just thought was really powerful and I think really instrumental for me.
Thanks for sharing that. And what a what a powerful story of love
Mm,
and family and the lessons that we get from what that means, and how we treat people and how we treat the people we love,
yeah.
and what that means. And I can see, as the parent of a JMU student, I can see how you bring that
Mm,
into your work. Um, you know, I remember I remember sitting in the, I don't know if it was the theater, the auditorium.
Wilson Hall.
Yes, Wilson Hall. It was Admitted Students Day, February 9th. I remember the day. It was February 9th, 4 years ago. And you were welcoming us all there. My daughter decided that day to attend. We cut the check that day to reserve her spot.
Nice.
And you stood up there and said to all of us, the message to the parents was, make sure your kids know how to make one thing like macaroni and cheese before they come to school, and make sure they know how to do a load of laundry.
Right.
And it was kind of like, you need to be able to tee your kids up for success,
Right.
for independence. And I looked over at my daughter and I was like, you are good to go, because she started doing her own laundry when she was 9 or 10 years old. I'm like, you're good and you can cook. Like, you're gonna nail this. You're great. um, and then since then, the emails that you send to the students, that you send to parents and guardians to say, hey everyone, this is the note your Dukes received.
Right.
And the messages, the caring, the life lessons, the remember, it's, you are part of a community. These things, take care of each other, take care of your community, and have fun. Powerful, powerful. I could see where it came from. This, take care of yourself, take care of your community,
Right.
you're a family.
Right. Well, and I think about, uh, this is the time to make some mistakes.
Hmm.
This 4 years, 3 years, however long a student's here, it's not real life yet. It's sort of real life junior, or it's practice a little bit. And there's a lot of support systems around. It's not quite the life of the wrapped in bubble wrap, but you're there's a community here around you where we're still really focused on your learning.
Hmm.
And we kind of want you to make some mistakes. Not kind of. We want you to make some mistakes. We want you to figure this out over time. And I think about the opportunity to do that. And one of the things that I think is missed in some of this, like, is college worth it thing,
Hmm.
there, and people are questioning, is you can't replace this with anything else.
Yeah.
these years of, man, I just figured something out about myself. Like one of my parents are such amazing humans. This is an embarrassing story, but my parents were coming here to watch me play a show, a concert in tuba my fall semester, and it was the only time they were going to see me because it was a small event. It was only six of us playing, so when you're in an orchestra, no one can tell. Like your mom always tells, "You sounded so great." I'm like, "Mom, there's seven tubas. You have no idea." Right? But uh, so they came here that Saturday morning to see a show, and I didn't show up because the night before, I had an opportunity with a friend to go to Norfolk and see Ozzy Osbourne play a concert, opening band Iron Maiden.
Oh my gosh.
I thought, oh, of course. So we go, we come back. I slept through my alarm. So my parents are here in the room watching this show I'm supposed to be playing. And I let down the whole group that was playing that day. I had a solo. I let my parents down. So I eventually go over there. And mind you, I started college on crutches because I torn my ACL my senior year.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm like crutching across campus to get to the music building because it's on the other side of campus from where I live. I poke my head in the back of the room. I see my parents sitting there, my dad livid, my mom upset. I wave to them and they come out, and I screwed up, right? I screwed up, no question. I screwed up. But, and we had a really hard conversation,
I'm sure you
yeah,
did.
very hard conversation. They stayed, we had lunch, we talked, everything. But I got the chance to learn that, like, you got to make choices lesson. No one was really harmed. My parents were really upset and disappointed. They came back to a later show, and mom said I sounded great among the seven tubas. Um, but that's a lesson you can learn in college
Yes.
where there's not a lot of damage. And
Yes.
think about all the other lessons you get to learn in this space where no harm, no foul, no one, and that's the power of this space and this time is you can skip a class and then realize that, oh my gosh, I got a D on my next quiz because, or they gave a quiz that day, I wasn't there, I got an F.
Mm-hmm.
One F on a quiz. Good lesson. What's the lesson from that? So I just think that's the power of this time is those moments of, yeah, I screwed up. Mom, Dad, I'm sorry. I really should not have gone to see Ozzy Osbourne and Iron Maiden. It was a great show, but I probably shouldn't have gone across the state to Norfolk and think that I could get back and wake up in time for a 9 o'clock concert the next morning when I got home at 4 o'clock in the morning. That's the power. And I bring that into, I bring that into my work. When I was not always a great student at JMU. I bring that into my work. So when I work with students now who struggle, I can talk to them about my first two semesters where I didn't do well. I was a 2.0 student and how I recovered over time and did better and eventually earned a doctorate. My own journey helps me in my conversations with students and parents. I luckily had a dad who also didn't do well in school. So after my first two semesters of not doing well, he said, that's your last chance to do poorly. I get it. I didn't do well either, but we need to see improvement from here. But I had the grace of my dad telling me that and also he understood that it's hard that first year. And from then on, my grades went up. But that I know that. And I had that experience with a parent having that conversation that guides how I talk to students now about it.
It's great for them to know that it's great for them to see a real human in the position and leaders talking about their failures and
Right.
being very human about it
Yeah.
and knowing that there is life and success after failure, especially today where so many young adults have grade anxiety and the pressure they put on themselves to get perfect grades.
Right.
I see it among and my daughter really stresses about her grades when our position has always been, did you put in the work? Did you do what you're supposed to do? Because we don't care what the grade is. We care that you're showing up and you're doing what you're supposed to do.
Yep.
Because the outcomes will be the outcomes
Sure.
of like that's There's only so much you can do when it comes to a grade, but if you're showing up, you're doing your work, you're doing what you're supposed to do, things have a way of working out.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I think we're in a world now where I didn't have to go to school in public. You didn't have to go to school in public. Now everything's public.
Yes.
Everybody's competing publicly. You know, I think about parenting is so hard now. Like, you're parenting in public. Like,
Mhm.
everything's online. Everyone's judging everybody.
Oh my gosh.
I would
The,
never.
the parent Facebook page, and I read and and you participate very kindly. There are some really genuine asks for help on the parent Facebook pages, and you offer some very kind, you direct to resources. I pay attention to stuff. I'm curious. I want to see what's going on. I'm not a participant, but I'd like to pay attention to what's going on. And there are some really cruel judgments as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this to you before, but I see, and we see parents as partners.
Yeah.
Parents are partners in this process, and you treat partners as partners, not as problems, or not as annoyances, or not as stupid people like some people do online. Uh,
Yes.
People have legitimate questions. Sometimes they have questions they could find on Google, but they
Mm-hmm.
still have legitimate questions because that's a question they have about their child. And the last thing I say at every orientation session is I thank parents for trusting us.
Mm-hmm.
Thank them for trusting us with their most precious thing in their life, their child. Because it is. People are like, don't call them child, call them student. I'm like, it is their child. This is orientation. It's the beginning. It's the day they're leaving and handing us this child and leaving. It's still their child. And it's always going to, I was always my mom's child.
Mm-hmm.
I could be 50 and I'm still going to be my mom's child, right? So we have to understand that what parents are doing nowadays is doing in this world of scary things. You know, parents' first job, right? Keep your kid alive, keep them safe. It's
Mm-hmm.
harder to do that. I mean, I grew up in the world of rumble seats and no helmets and no seatbelts and, you know,
Flying
all the
down the street on skateboards, and yeah.
right. Yeah. I mean, my favorite article I read recently said that Gen X was raised on parental neglect and hose water. It was such a funny thing, but it's so true. Like,
Yeah.
I left in the morning and I came home when the street light came on. And no, if I did that now, people would arrest my parents for neglect.
Yes.
And so we live in a different world, and I think we have to respect the fact that parents are raising their kids in a different world than my parents did,
Mm-hmm.
in the shadow of scary things like school shootings and 9/11 and war, and that's hard. And parents are doing a hard thing in a hard world, and a harder world, in a public world that my parents never experienced. And and don't get me wrong, my parents didn't have it easy. I was not an easy kid,
Mm-hmm.
but the world around them is easy. You all, as parents, are raising your kids with everyone judging how you're doing it. No one judged my parents and how they were doing it because they didn't know, because my parents didn't tell them and they didn't post about it and they didn't ask about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that we have to honor the challenge that it is to parent today with our parents and treat them as partners. And one of the things that you mentioned is I send a message every month to parents in a newsletter, but then I also send students a message every month and I forward it to parents because I want parents to know, because again, they should know, they deserve to know, and they're going to send it to their kids. And
Which is
that's
exactly what I do.
right.
I there's always at least one or two nuggets that will be directly relevant to my child, and I either screenshot it and send a picture, or I hit forward on the email button and say, "Oh my gosh, did you see this? Did you look? You can do," and it's exactly what I do.
Right. Because I mean, I find that, and I told you this, like Angela Ritchie on my staff that helps put together the letters,
Mm-hmm.
she's a former JMU parent. So she gets what I don't get, and she helps me be smarter and how I share messages. And she really is the one who's like managing the, hey, Tim, I think this is an important message for us to send. You know, in January, we always hear these types of questions. And my chief of staff, Carson, also like leans in. She said, hey, we're seeing this trend out there that parents are asking lots of these questions. So we'll include that in the letter. So we're watching what's out there and trying to be present and relevant to what we know is on people's minds. And I'm only good at this because of the team around me that's so good. Everything from the dean of students to all the associate vice presidents, who know what I don't know and are better at a lot of things than me, and they help us do the work that we do here. So they let me do things like this that I get to take credit for their work because they're the amazing team that I just get to lead and be who I get to be in this place that's such a gift. But the reality is parenting is hard, and I think we need to honor that hard by just being honest and being gracious with parents and what it means to parent today.
And your messages are so real. Uh, Halloween, the October messages, and right around Halloween weekend. Halloween is a big weekend at JMU, and I look forward to that message each October because it's costumes are not an invitation, and be safe. Make sure you're taking care of each other. And as the mom of daughters, I very much appreciate those messages. They are sensitive and caring, and have fun. Everyone, you're supposed to have fun. Like, this is a fun time in your life. It's not an easy time in your life.
Yeah. Well, and I try to be, I mean, I enjoyed college. I loved
Mm-hmm.
this place. I loved going here, and I loved the time. I loved even when I was stupid here, right? And that, again, as part of it in those mistakes. And I think it's important that I use my platform to help students understand the expectation.
Yeah.
I always like to tell students, so at the beginning of the year at convocation, I have a speech that I give, and I have to talk about sexual assault, and I have to talk about
Mm-hmm.
alcohol, and I have to talk about things, and I call it my hopes and expectations speech.
Mm-hmm.
I have high hopes for these students. I also have very high expectations for them. And I think it's not only okay, it's right and appropriate for us to have both. I think you as parents have hopes and expectations. I hope that they find their place and their people and their future here. And I also expect they're going to treat each other with respect and this place with respect. And they're going to honor everyone around them in the way that they deserve to be. And I like a lot the platinum rule instead of the golden rule. Treat
Mm-hmm.
people how they want to be treated, not how you want to be treated, because how I want to be treated might not work for you. We
Exactly.
understand each other well enough to understand that's how you want to be treated. Let me treat you that way. And that has real value for them. And the other thing I'll just say is years ago, I had a student of mine who gave me a story, and it's a really quick story that I tell at that event every year. And it's basically the story of how it's a fable, but how the birds of the world picked their leader, who was the best leader. And so they did a flying contest, and so things like the ostrich and the penguin obviously didn't do so well because they can't fly, and in the end the eagle flies to the highest level, and everyone's like, oh, it's the eagle, but then suddenly a little speck jumps up above the eagle, and it's a sparrow who rode on the back of the eagle. And in the end they're like, the eagle is our leader because they took the least of us, the smallest of us, to greater heights than they could get to
Mm.
themselves. And that student said to me, she said, that's you to me, that you were the eagle to my story, that you carried me farther than I thought. And I think that's what we should all be. And that story has resonated with me forever. The eagle is sort of what I try to be for our students, is to help carry them farther and higher than they can even imagine for themselves. And that's one of those moments, like I talked about failure moments and challenge moments.
Mm-hmm.
That story, when she handed it to me at her graduation, still gets me today as, ooh, like you're saying, I meant that to you, but that I want to live up now. What that, and as if you know me now, that's my challenge every day. How do I live up to that story every day of being that for every student? Is how do we lift them up in that way? And that's the power of this, is that moment of real success and happiness and joy from that student is one meant the world to me and still means the world to me, but makes me want to keep doing that for more students.
And to do that, you set a goal for yourself with 23,000 plus students. You have a goal where you want to try to meet every single student before they graduate.
That'd be my hope. I've never gotten there, but I've sort of adjusted it to, I at least want to be in the same room with every single student before they
Mm-hmm.
graduate, and not just at orientation and not just at graduation,
Mm-hmm.
but I want to be connected to every single student before they graduate. I go out of my way with the events I go to. I actually have a student right now, Caitlin, who's amazing, who actually tracks all the things I go to. And then she gave me a report in the fall and said, here's where you were too much, here's
Mhm.
where you were too little. And now she'll help me plan out the spring of where do I go to get into spaces I've never been before. So we really are conscious about how do I go to the spaces, not just that I'm used to or comfortable in, or, feel like, oh yeah, that's a space I'm good. She's like, you've been to that space 5 times. You don't need to go there again. You need to go over here where you haven't been. So she really helps me be more strategic with where I spend my time. So there's about 6 or 7 sort of communities that I didn't spend as much time with that I in the fall that I will this spring. And so we're really conscious about how do I show up for students, especially groups that don't get as much love and don't get as much attention. So we're trying to find those groups that are maybe really important and amazing homes for students that maybe have 10 members versus 250 members. That 10-member group is important. And the quick story I'll give you is in the fall, we had the Sun Belt Championship game on a Friday night. And big game, our first ever Sun Belt Championship game, hosting the game on campus. And that night, one of our uh, um, literature magazines was being released, and a student I knew was in it. It was his first time being published, and it was at the same time as the football game.
Mm.
And I was probably going to be 20, 30 students in the room, and I thought there are a lot of football games.
Mm.
But I went, so I went to the release event, and he didn't know I was going.
Oh, wow.
He walked in, and he was like, "What are you doing here? I thought you had the football game." I'm like, "I have a football game, and I'll go after." And for those students in that room, those 30 students, I was able to show up for them. And the vice president for student affairs was at their event on a Friday night during a football game. And it's a football game, right? There are lots of football games. But I know how much that meant to that student and the rest of those students that I showed up for them in that space to honor their creativity and their art and their writing and everything. And I want to keep finding those moments when it really will matter that I show up for our students. And it doesn't have to be a large number of students. It just has to be one, and that's going to have value. And that was a good reminder for me because I was originally going to go to the football game, and I did go, but I thought, you know what? Where is a place that only I can be to make an impact? And that's a lesson I learned from our current president, President Schmidt. Where are the places only I can be? And that was a place only I could be to make that impact and be in that space. So I chose there, and I showed up to the second quarter of the football game, and everything was fine. And no one cared that I wasn't at the football game for the first quarter, but that mattered where I was.
That's hugely impactful and meaningful. And you keep saying it's a football game. And it was, I heard you say that was the Sun Belt Conference Championship game.
Right.
So it was a big game.
Yeah.
And it was a big night in a student's life,
Right.
another student's life, like big night for big night all
Right.
around, like for a lot of people, and so meaningful. And I hope leaders listening are hearing you describe the the strategic way that you're approaching. How do I decide where to spend my time so that I can make as much of an impact on as many people as possible, because you have over 23,000 students who would love to spend some time with you, and you want to spread the love.
Right.
You said you want to spread the love, and that's what leadership is. Leadership is spreading the love
Right.
and keeping those students engaged and wanting to be there. And for the ones who need some extra support, knowing that that support is there and knowing that you are a safe space to go to so they're not afraid to ask for help when they need it,
Sure.
that's critical.
Yeah. And that might be the one thing they really need. One of the things that I always think about, and you had talked about earlier, one of my favorite things to do is garden, and it's seeds.
Yeah.
Right? I'm planting seeds everywhere I can of seeds of love, seeds of hope, seeds of belief. That student saw me believe in him. All those other students saw me believe in them. Everyone who read that night, I walked up and said, "Congratulations, I loved your piece." That those students, that was a big moment for them. Go back to as someone who feels a little bit like a quasi dad in this space now,
Mm-hmm.
like a dad saw me, a dad showed up for me. Tim, the dad, there's a mom online who always calls me Duke Dad. I know I have let go of ooh, that feels like over, I'm thinking I'm too important. I've let go of that now and said, no, it is important for them. And I now know that when I show up, it has value, and I want to use that value to the greatest extent possible. And that could be quantity of students, or could be a quality of interaction that, again, might be 10 people, but those 10 people felt really seen and really valued in that moment and saw me believe in them and show up for them in a way that maybe they haven't had a lot of.
Mhm.
And that, if that's what I can do, then I'm going to do that.
And for someone else, it might be something that speaks to them through your Insta account, now through Instagram. I've seen you grilling with students and sharing these grilling experiences, or standing out on campus in the first snow and just celebrating the first snow on JMU's campus. I mean, you're always doing something and sharing it on Instagram, and it feels like you're just having a conversation with me when I'm watching you on Instagram. So
Yeah.
you're always finding a way to speak with the greater JMU community.
Yeah. When we think about, it's funny, I have a former student that is in the world of social media. It's her career. And when I was getting started here, I said, do you have advice for me as I start a new account from scratch? And she said, you have to be real the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
She said, people will see through processed video, all this stuff. She said, be you in your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Every once in a while you might need someone to hold the phone, but depending on what you're doing, but she's like, be you in your phone. And so they're rough. I mean, you see them. I mean, these are not polished videos. This is me holding my phone on the quad or wherever. And that has been important to me the whole time, that this is going to just be me. It's not a scripted thing. It might be the 12th take, but you don't know that. You only see the one that I post. But it's just me talking to my community, and it's me. And it gets me places where I can't get because I'm only one person. But I know that if I can get 10,000 people to watch that, then that message gets to more people or more. And that's what matters, is I'm reaching my community in spaces that maybe I can't get to because, again, I'm only one person. I can only be in so many spaces. But if through social media, if I can extend my reach, and thus the lessons, the seeds that I want to plant to more
Mm-hmm.
places, more people, then I'm going to use that way and that methodology to do that.
Well, let's talk about the seeds in your garden, because I'm a garden. I started my garden a couple of years ago, and I'm a kind of a new gardener, nerdy kind of person. So, what do you grow? What's like your most favorite thing to grow in your garden?
Oh man, so I do a lot of experimenting that goes badly. So I will say that. I tried corn a few years ago, and I mean, I got the little salad corns.
Yeah.
Those guys is what I
Yes.
got out of
Yes.
it.
Like Tom Hanks in Big, where
Yeah, that's
yeah.
exactly what I was thinking. Yum, 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 yum. So corn has been a failure. I've tried. I've had one year I had the most crazy pumpkin experience I've ever had in my life. I mean, I must have had 100 pumpkins.
Wow.
So those are always fun. You got to remember to grow them later because I had pumpkins in August. That's not
Uh,
helpful. I will tell you, my favorite thing to grow is garlic.
okay. When do you plant garlic?
So you plant garlic in October,
Yeah.
and then it goes over the winter,
Uh-huh.
and then you chop off the once the flowers come, you chop those off so it sends the energy back into the whole garlic head.
Okay.
You usually, once the greens fully sort of brown off, that's when you pick them. Usually it's June-ish, June, July. And it's funny, I was so weird. People thought I was fighting vampires. I would bring the garlic to work because
Yep.
people wanted garlic. And I grew my own garlic, and I would bring like 200 heads of garlic to work for friends, and I would give it away. And it was always so popular. People always wanted it. So
So
I
I'm
haven't done that.
Italian, so I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I
So
never grow I haven't tried garlic yet, but I want to. And then fall comes and goes so fast because that's usually my busiest work
yeah.
season. I don't get to it.
Yeah, but set aside, a day in October, till the whole thing up, and it's just one clove each. You just plant one clove, and plant those. You can buy them online; they're great. I always love growing garlic. I haven't done it here yet, but I did it probably for 15 years up
Okay.
in Virginia. So garlic's a lot of fun because it's also a crop when you don't grow anything else.
Yeah.
So it's the post summer crop when you're like, it's just sitting there. What am I doing with this ground? Key is you got to remember where you did it, because then when you're planting the spring stuff,
And you're
you don't,
tilling.
right. Garlic's fun. I always like at least one tomato plant. I'm growing shishito peppers for the first time this year. I
Okay.
love a good shishito pepper. Um, and we always grow at least one Japanese eggplant because we love to cook that up. And then poblano peppers is my other one that I really like. A little bit of fire, but not too hot. So I like doing that as well. And I like lettuces. So I always have a little lettuce thing going as well. So I can just throw that in a salad or something.
Awesome. I have a hydroponic garden
Oh, yeah.
inside as well, and I grow lettuces all year round. So I love the fresh lettuce.
Yes. Yeah, me too. And herbs. I forgot. I always have some herbs out on the deck where I can just run out and grab some parsley or oregano or something right off of it and throw it in a pasta or something.
Well, maybe this fall when I come for family weekend this fall, I might just do a drop off of some goods at the office of the VP of Student Affairs. So,
I love it. I would love that. And maybe
or
that.
oh my gosh, I'll be there for graduation. I can't believe that. But my Duke will be returning for her master's degree,
Right.
thanks to a professor. Uh, I, and I just have to say, you think you might be a number at a school with over 20,000 students,
Yeah.
but there was no such thing. She had an amazing experience.
Yeah.
She had a great advisor, wonderful conversations with advisors who had very deliberate, careful conversations with her about her classes, a professor who took an interest and pulled her aside after class one day and helped her find a career path that was never on her radar. And she has a she had an internship last summer because of it, another internship this summer, and she has the a job offer for fall of 27 after she finishes her master's. So she is like,
It's
because
that.
of the professor.
Well, and I do think that that's a difference here. And I'm not going to judge any other school. I'm just going to say about this place, every person is thinking about other people.
Hmm.
It's exemplified in the holding the doors thing that we're known for, but that act of holding doors happens everywhere. It's also that accounting professor holding the door open to accounting.
Yes.
That you see a student and you're like, I wonder if they're okay, and you stop and ask them. People just stop and check in on each other in ways that I just don't know that happens everywhere else. And that is just something about the ethos here that is made up of all the people that are part of this community.
Yeah.
It's not a we don't say, hey, you better do this. It's just something that's here. It's a little bit of the secret sauce or something in the air that I'll share when I wasn't doing well in a class because I wasn't going. When a professor stops on the street, stops his car and gets out and says, Mr. Miller, if you don't start coming to class, you're not going to pass. He didn't have to do that. He could have just gone home. But he took a moment and stopped. And then I went back to class, and while I didn't do well, I did pass. I wouldn't have if he hadn't stopped. And that's not a moment you hear about. Professor on his way home from class that I had just skipped, stopping and seeing me and saying, "Hey, you need to come to class."
Hmm.
And that changed how I approach classes. And that was a really powerful thing. And I think about that moment a lot. That's a little thing to him, but a big thing to me.
Yeah. That's the community. That's the family. And this accounting professor, Marina also continued to follow up with him to say thank you and to say, and here's where I am now, and here's what I'm doing, and I just want you to know because you're the one who put me on this path. And he reached out to the firm where she was doing the internship, and he has former students there, and he reached out to them and said, hey, I have another student who's, I mean, it's just this whole community, and he didn't have to do that. And it's just it's the relationships. Jamie really is. I say all the time, it makes me wish I could go back to college again because I'd go to JMU.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful to you, Tim, for spending some time with me. How if if people in the JMU community wanted to reach out to Student Affairs with any questions, how can they reach the Office of Student Affairs?
So email is easiest. It's just vpstudentaffairs@jmu.edu. As you know, at JMU Tim Miller on all social media is the way people get me directly. Yeah, and we're just stop by the office. We on purpose moved our office from the second floor down to the first floor in our building so that I could be more close and sort of welcoming. We also have a fireplace now, which is really nice, and it's on today. It's very cold. So just to have a more welcoming space and to be able to access students more easily. Yeah, they can come by. They can check us out on social media, or just email vpstudentaffairs@jmu.edu.
Thank you. Thanks for your time. Thanks for giving me a chance to get to know you a little better. And thank you for all you do for all of the Dukes and the Duke community.
Well, Claudia, I appreciate the opportunity. Again, this whole thing has been an opportunity for me coming to JMU, getting opportunities like this. It's such a gift for me because, again, dream job at my favorite place. Couldn't do anything better. Wouldn't want to do anything but this.
So I feel like, should we end with JMU?
Dukes. Absolutely. Awesome.
You have the insight. The next move is yours, because influence without action doesn't create impact. If this was valuable, please give it a like, a follow, and share it with someone else doing the work. I'm Claudia Williams, and this is From Pumps to Power Moves. Now go take ownership of what's next.